Hey everyone, Gill Gross here, and it is time for an update of our French Open power rankings, our way of tracking contender status in the lead up to Roland Garros. This will be the second edition. The date is April 26th, but I actually made these rankings on April 24th. So technically, this is the April 24th edition of the French Open power rankings. This was last week, April 18th, post Monte Carlo. I will not relitigate any of this. I went in great detail, not great detail, but some detail on every single player here on that last video. And in the interest of not repeating myself, as the French Open power rankings continue, I'm only really going to talk about players in depth when there are major changes in their position in the power rankings. So again, I'm going to put on the April 18th on your screen, and in 3 seconds, I will change it to April 24th. There is movement. There are changes. Here they are. At the very top, Carlos Alcaraz overtakes Novak Djokovic, moves into the number 1 spot. Daniil Medvedev passes Casper Ruud. Fritz passes Zverev. So no massive movements in the top 10. In the next out category, out goes Matteo Berrettini. Out goes Francis Tiafoe. In comes Francisco Cerundolo. In comes Lorenzo Musetti. Let's talk about all of this now. Starting with Berrettini, who is out. Good signs in Monte Carlo. Honestly, won a couple of matches. All of those good things erased by another ab injury. Unfortunately, he pulled out of Madrid, and if Matteo is not going to be healthy, and there's not much track record of success for him recently whatsoever, he needs to be out of the power rankings despite his history of good results on clay. Tiafoe leaves the power rankings after a first-round loss to Emil Ruusuvuori in Barcelona. His Houston title just isn't enough to keep him here. Cam Norrie gets to stay in the next out category, although he did lose to Lorenzo Musetti quite early in Barcelona. I'm keeping him here. He needs to get something going for him to stay there. Karen Khachanov also stays. He lost to Dan Evans last week, but he never beats Dan Evans anyway. Never, ever. Francisco Cerundolo, welcome to the next out. He beats Norrie and Ruud in back-to-back weeks. So, was there a run to a final in there or like a title? No, nothing massive like that. But I look at 2 great wins back-to-back weeks, a history of some nice results on clay, obviously, as well. So, Norrie's on here. Ruud's on here. Francisco has wins over him. He deserves to be here too. That's the logic. And Musetti, 5-2 start to the European clay court season. He made the semis in Barcelona, beat Cam Norrie. Musetti enters the power rankings in the next out category. Taylor Fritz moves up 1. He beat Fucsovics and team lost to Botic van de Zandschulp. So far, Fritz's European clay court season is 2 semifinals. Medvedev moves up 1 despite not playing this week. That is because Zverev and... Well, that's because Ruud moves down 1. Ruud beat Shelton, but lost to Francisco Cerundolo in the second round. Still no great results this year for Casper Ruud, other than the title in Estoril, which didn't really feature any great big wins. No top 30 wins there. I need top 30 wins from Casper. Zverev also moves down 1. He lost to Christopher O'Connell in the first round in Munich. Great history in Madrid, so let's see if he can make up some ground in this coming week. Moving up the power rankings, I'm not swapping Holger Rune and Andrei Rublev, which might be controversial. I think there might be some disagreement. Obviously, last week, Rune won the title. Rublev was a runner-up. So there is a difference there, obviously. It's not enough for them to swap positions because the head-to-head in the Monte Carlo final just holds a lot more weight to me than the difference between what they did last week. First of all, both of them impressively making the finals, although neither of them really had to pull off any great wins to do so. But I'm looking at it, Rune beats Botic van de Zandschulp with a lot of help from Botic and just the stress of that moment. Probably should have lost that match. Had to save 4 match points. Had to come back from down either 5-2 or 5-1, I forget. Rublev loses to Lajovic in a third set. Okay, yeah. Would I rather be Holger and be lifting the trophy? Obviously, yes. But for our purposes, the difference there is not as big or not as weighty as the difference between when they actually went head-to-head in the Monte Carlo final. So they're going to stay put exactly where they are. Let's go to Tsitsipas. Great week for him, honestly. A couple of 3 top 30 wins, but in order for him to jump Sinner, I would have needed an even bigger win. I would have needed to see him maybe beat somebody who's on your screen right now, somebody in the French Open power rankings. So they were good wins, not great wins. He doesn't get to jump Sinner just by, beating the players who he was able to beat. But good signs from him. Sinner, maybe if he lost early or had a, surprising loss, maybe Tsitsipas would have jumped him. That didn't happen. Look, he made the quarterfinals in Barcelona. He got sick. He had to pull out. He also withdrew from Madrid. I really can't penalize for him. I can't penalize him for that. If there were an injury at play, then maybe I would dock Sinner, but for illness, I'm definitely not going to do that. Alcaraz didn't drop a set. He beat a bunch of top 30 players, and he beat number 4 in the power ranking, Stefanos Tsitsipas. He obviously passes Djokovic here, who lost to Dusan Lajovic for his second straight pre-quarterfinal loss of this clay court season. And I think the last thing, I think that's quite obvious, why that change is made. But I think the last thing that I need to defend before I sign off here is why Djokovic didn't drop further, because in reality, his results thus far over the course of the clay court season does not warrant a number 2 spot. And to this, I will say, I fully admit that Novak Djokovic is getting special treatment here. That if Djokovic were any other player other than Nadal, he would have dropped down further based on these results. But when you are one of the greatest players of all time, when you are Novak Djokovic, when you have won 22 majors, you just don't follow the same rules as everybody else. This is just the reality of the situation. So he does not drop below Jannik Sinner, who's never been in a major semifinal. He does not drop below Stefanos Tsitsipas, who hasn't really had a big win since January. I don't think. Apologies if I'm forgetting one. He doesn't. That's not to say that Sinner and Tsitsipas or Rune or Rublev, that's not to say that they just are not able to pass Djokovic no matter what they do and no matter what Djokovic does, because that's certainly not the case. But what is the case is we're going to have to see even more of this trend to continue. We're going to need to see more concerning stuff from Djokovic. We're going to need to see more good wins from them in order for that change to happen. It's not going to be that easy, because in these power rankings, I take into account everything, and that includes Djokovic's long history of contending for Roland Garros titles. So that is that. We'll be back next week for the next rendition of the French Open Power Rankings. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.